The rain had started early that evening, turning the streets into rivers of glistening water that reflected the yellow glow of street lamps. She had just finished her shift at the small diner where she worked, her uniform damp and her shoes splashing with every step. Her apartment was only a few blocks away, but even that short walk felt endless under the storm. She pulled her coat tighter around her, hunching her shoulders against the cold and the relentless drizzle. Her mind was preoccupied with bills, groceries, and the list of things she needed to fix in her tiny apartment. Life had never been easy for her, and lately it seemed like the weight of it was pressing harder than ever. As she turned a corner, she noticed a figure huddled near the entrance of an old, closed storefront. At first, she thought it was just another person trying to avoid the rain, but as she got closer, she could see the stranger trembling, soaked through to the skin. Instinctively, she slowed down, uncertainty and concern washing over her. The stranger's eyes lifted briefly, and she caught a glimpse of exhaustion and fear mixed with something she couldn't quite name. It was strange, but there was a certain quiet dignity in the way the person held themselves, despite the obvious struggle. She hesitated for a moment, thinking about her own situation. Her apartment was small and barely held enough space for herself, let alone someone else. Food was limited, and she had just enough money to cover the rent for the week. Yet there was something inside her, a pull, a nudge that told her she couldn't just walk away. Without thinking too much, she approached the stranger and asked if they were okay. The stranger's voice was soft and raspy. They said they had nowhere to go, no one to turn to, and the storm was too much to face. She felt a pang in her chest. She didn't know who this person was or why they were here, but the fear in their eyes mirrored fears she had felt herself many times in her life. A thought crossed her mind. Sometimes helping someone didn't require knowing everything about them. Sometimes it was enough to offer warmth, food, and shelter. She asked the stranger if they would like to come to her apartment until the rain stopped. At first, the person hesitated, glancing at the street and the dark windows of nearby buildings. Then slowly they nodded. She offered a reassuring smile, trying to make the decision easier, and together they walked through the wet streets, the rain dripping off their coats and hair. Each step felt heavy, not just because of the water, but because of the sudden realization of what she had done. She was taking a risk, opening her small, vulnerable life to a stranger, and yet it felt like the right thing. Once they arrived at her apartment, she unlocked the door and stepped inside, flicking on the lights. The warm glow of her small living room seemed to surprise the stranger, who looked around cautiously, as if unsure whether to trust the safety they were being offered. She gestured to a chair near the heater and offered them a towel and a warm drink. The stranger accepted silently, and she noticed a quiet relief in their posture, as though they had finally found a place where they could breathe. She went to the kitchen to heat up some soup she had been saving for herself. The smell of it filled the apartment, and soon, the stranger was holding the bowl with both hands, closing their eyes as they inhaled the warmth. She watched them, feeling a strange mix of emotions. There was curiosity. Who were they? Why were they here? But there was also something deeper. A connection formed in that small, quiet space. They didn't speak much, but the silence was comfortable, almost healing in a way she hadn't realized she needed to. Hours passed, and the storm outside raged on. But inside, the apartment felt calm. They spoke in fragments, sharing bits of their story without giving away too much. She learned that they had been traveling, facing hardship and unexpected challenges. There was a sadness in their voice, a quiet weight that matched the storm outside. She listened, offering words when she could, and sometimes just nodding, letting the presence of another human being be enough. As the night grew deeper, she offered them a blanket and a place to sleep on the sofa. She set up a small pillow and tried to make the space as comfortable as possible. They thanked her quietly, almost reluctantly, as if gratitude was a foreign feeling they weren't used to expressing. She smiled and told them it was no problem, that everyone deserved a place to feel safe when life got overwhelming. There was a moment of pause, a fleeting silence that carried more meaning than any words could. It was a simple act of kindness, yet it felt monumental. After they fell asleep, she sat by the window, watching the rain trickle down the glass. Her mind wandered to her own life, to the daily struggles and the loneliness she sometimes felt. Yet tonight it was different. There was a warmth that didn't come from the heater or the soup, but from the knowledge that she had made a difference, however small. She realized that sometimes life presented unexpected opportunities to show courage and compassion. And it was in those moments that real change began. The next morning, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under the pale light of dawn. The stranger was awake, quietly sipping the last of the coffee she had made. They didn't speak much, but there was a subtle shift in the energy between them, a mutual understanding that something significant had happened. Before leaving, the stranger turned to her, placing a hand lightly on her shoulder, and simply said, "Thank you." Those two words carried weight beyond what she could explain, and she felt a sense of fulfillment she hadn't known in years. As the stranger walked away, disappearing into the brightening streets, she felt a strange mixture of emptiness and hope. Emptiness because they were gone, but hope because she knew the world held possibilities beyond what she had imagined. Life was unpredictable, and yet, in the midst of uncertainty, there were moments that could transform everything. She returned to her small apartment, the memories of the night lingering, feeling a quiet excitement that maybe, just maybe, her simple act of kindness was the beginning of something extraordinary. The days that followed were ordinary in many ways. She continued her work at the diner, paid her bills, and carried on with her routine. Yet there was a new lightness in her step, a renewed sense of purpose. She began noticing small acts of kindness around her, recognizing the value of helping others even in ways that seemed insignificant. There was an invisible thread connecting her life to the stranger she had helped. A thread she didn't fully understand yet, but one that promised something greater. One evening, a few weeks later, she found a letter slipped under her apartment door. It was handwritten, the penmanship neat and deliberate. As she unfolded it, her hands trembled slightly. The letter was from the stranger. They explained briefly that their journey had taken them to unexpected places, and that her kindness had changed something within them. They hinted that someone important in their life had noticed her generosity, and that opportunities might come her way in ways she couldn't yet imagine. The words were simple yet powerful, and she read them over and over, feeling the weight of possibility settle over her like sunlight breaking through clouds. She held the letter close for a long time, thinking about the stranger, and the night that had changed them both. Life, she realized, was full of unpredictable moments. One act of kindness, one choice to help, could ripple outward in ways that were invisible at first. She didn't know what the future held, but she felt ready, more than ever, to embrace it. The world suddenly seemed larger, more connected and full of potential. Her life, though still modest and ordinary in many ways, had been touched by something extraordinary, something that reminded her that even in the smallest acts, true transformation could begin. The days after the stranger had stayed at her apartment were a strange mix of normal and extraordinary. She returned to her routine, waking up early to get ready for work, making the same hurried breakfast and walking the familiar streets to the diner. Yet in her heart something had shifted. That one night had left a mark she could not explain. She found herself glancing at the doors of nearby buildings, thinking of strangers in need. She thought about the letter, how carefully the words were chosen, and how deeply they had touched her. A week later, as she was walking home from work, she noticed a small cafe tucked into a corner she had never paid attention to before. The sign was simple, almost unassuming, but for some reason it caught her eye. She pushed open the door and stepped inside, shaking off the lingering chill from the late afternoon air. The smell of fresh coffee and baked bread wrapped around her like a warm blanket. She ordered a cup and sat by the window, watching the people pass outside. It felt peaceful, a rare moment of calm she hadn't realized she had missed so much. As she sipped her coffee, she couldn't help but think about the stranger. What were they doing now? Where had their journey taken them? She imagined them walking through busy streets, carrying a small bag but holding on to the memory of her apartment like a talisman against the hardships of life. The thought brought a gentle smile to her face. Helping someone had always seemed like such a small act. Yet now she saw it as something powerful, a seed that could grow into something beyond imagination. The following days were filled with small, unexpected encounters that reminded her of the stranger's visit. A man carrying groceries dropped a bag and she helped him pick it up. An elderly woman struggled to open a door and she held it for her, smiling kindly. Every time she offered help, even in minor ways, she felt a flicker of the same warmth she had felt that rainy night. Life felt connected in ways she hadn't noticed before, and she began to pay attention to people around her. noticing their struggles and moments of quiet despair. One evening, she returned home to find another envelope slipped under her door. Her heart raced as she picked it up, wondering if it was from the stranger again. This time the envelope contained a short note and a small photograph. The note was brief but poignant. "Kindness changes everything. Stay open, and the world will open to you." The photograph showed a place she had never seen, a beautiful building surrounded by greenery, bathed in golden light. She didn't understand the connection yet, but there was a sense of promise in the image, a hint that something important was waiting. As the weeks passed, she began to notice subtle changes in her own life. She felt more confident at work, speaking up to help customers and colleagues. Her manager began to notice her dedication and quiet leadership, offering small praises that lifted her spirits. She started making small plans for herself, thinking about long-term goals she had never dared to dream of. Life still had challenges, but now they seemed less insurmountable. The stranger's visit had given her a spark, a reminder that good deeds and courage were never wasted. One night, as she was closing her apartment window against a sudden evening chill, she heard a soft knock on her door. She hesitated, wondering who it could be. When she opened it, she was surprised to see a familiar face. The stranger had returned, looking just as weary as before, but with a faint smile. She quickly ushered them inside, offering a chair and a warm drink. This time they spoke more freely, sharing pieces of their journey since that night. They had encountered obstacles, but her kindness had given them a sense of hope and strength to keep moving forward. The stranger told her about the people they had met, the places they had stayed, and the lessons learned along the way. She listened intently, fascinated by their stories and amazed by the resilience they displayed. It was clear that their life had been shaped by hardships, yet they carried a sense of gratitude and humility that left a deep impression on her. She realized that even in the face of struggle, the human spirit could shine brightly, and sometimes all it took was a small act of compassion to rekindle that light. As they spoke, she noticed subtle hints that the stranger was connected to a world she had never imagined, a world of wealth, influence, and opportunity. They didn't reveal too much, but she sensed that their life was intertwined with powerful people who could change her life if given the chance. It was both exciting and intimidating to think about, but she pushed aside her doubts. For now, she focused on the moment, savoring the conversation and the connection that had formed between them. Days turned into weeks, and the stranger continued to visit occasionally, each time sharing more about their journey and offering guidance in ways she hadn't anticipated. They encouraged her to pursue her passions, to take risks, and to believe in her own strength. She began to see herself differently, recognizing that her kindness, courage, and determination were qualities that could open doors she had never even considered. One morning, she received a phone call from an unknown number. Hesitant but curious, she answered and was greeted by a polite, professional voice. It was an assistant to the billionaire mentioned in the stranger's note. They explained that he had noticed her acts of kindness and wanted to meet her, to discuss opportunities that aligned with her values and potential. She felt a mix of excitement, fear, and disbelief. Could this really be happening? Was her life about to change in ways she had only dreamed of? The stranger encouraged her to take the meeting, reassuring her that she had nothing to lose. They reminded her that life often presented unexpected chances, and those who were willing to embrace them could experience profound transformation. She felt a surge of determination, realizing that her past struggles had prepared her for this moment. With a deep breath, she accepted the invitation, her heart pounding with anticipation. In the days leading up to the meeting, she prepared herself carefully. She thought about what she wanted to achieve, the values she wanted to uphold, and the ways she could contribute meaningfully. She also reflected on the stranger's visit, understanding that their guidance had given her both confidence and clarity. Every act of kindness, every small decision to help others had led her to this point. She felt ready to step into a world she had never imagined, guided by the lessons she had learned and the strength she had cultivated. Finally, the day arrived. She dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that was simple yet professional. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the envelope containing the meeting details, but her heart was steady. She knew that this opportunity was not just about wealth or status. It was about making a difference, using her abilities to help others, and embracing the potential within herself. She felt a sense of purpose she had never experienced before, a quiet determination that gave her courage. As she arrived at the designated location, she was struck by the grandeur of the place. The building was impressive, elegant, and yet welcoming, filled with light and warmth. She took a moment to steady herself before entering, reminding herself that she belonged here, that her kindness and determination had brought her to this point. Every step felt like a testament to her resilience, a recognition that her actions, however small, had the power to transform lives. When she finally met the billionaire, she was surprised by his genuine warmth and humility. He spoke with kindness and respect, acknowledging the courage it took for her to help a stranger without expecting anything in return. He explained that such acts of compassion were rare and deeply valued, and that he wanted to support her in creating positive change in the world. She listened, feeling both humbled and inspired, realizing that her life was on the verge of a remarkable transformation. The conversation continued, filled with ideas, possibilities, and plans for the future. She felt a sense of connection and understanding that she had never experienced before. For the first time, she saw that her actions, her choices, and her character could truly shape her destiny. The stranger's guidance, the lessons learned from hardship, and her unwavering kindness had led her to this moment, opening doors to opportunities that were both exciting and meaningful. As she left the meeting, her mind was filled with hope and determination. She walked through the streets with a renewed sense of purpose, aware that her life had changed in profound ways. The stranger's presence, the lessons of compassion and courage, and the support of the billionaire had created a foundation for transformation. She felt ready to embrace the future, to continue helping others, and to live a life guided by kindness, integrity, and courage. The world felt larger, brighter, and full of possibilities, and she knew that this was only the beginning of a journey that would forever shape her life and the lives of those around her. The morning sun filtered softly through the thin curtains, casting warm golden streaks across her modest apartment. She woke slowly, feeling a quiet excitement she hadn't experienced before. Life had begun to shift in ways she could not have imagined, and yet the changes felt natural, as if they had been waiting for her all along. The letter from the stranger, the visit from the billionaire, and the encouragement she had received all blended together into a sense of purpose that carried her through the day. She moved around her small kitchen with a sense of calm and clarity, making herself a simple breakfast while thinking about the possibilities that lay ahead. Her mind wandered to the stranger and the words they had spoken about kindness, courage, and the unseen ways that one small act could ripple through the world. She realized that their guidance had shaped her actions, nudged her toward opportunities, and reminded her that even the simplest choices could have profound consequences. After breakfast, she dressed carefully and stepped outside, the crisp morning air filling her lungs. The streets were alive with the quiet bustle of people going about their routines. She walked with a sense of purpose, feeling a connection to everyone she passed. Each face she saw was a story, each person carrying their own burdens, and she felt a desire to help in whatever ways she could. It was a small feeling but powerful, and it guided her as she moved through the city. At work, she approached her tasks with renewed energy. She spoke kindly to her co-workers, offered help to those who needed it, and handled difficult situations with a patience she hadn't known she possessed. Her manager noticed the subtle change, complimenting her on her attitude and dedication. She smiled, grateful for the recognition, but more than that, she felt proud of the person she was becoming. The encouragement from the stranger and the billionaire had given her confidence that she had been lacking, and she embraced it fully. Later in the day, she received a phone call from the assistant who had scheduled her meeting with the billionaire. They asked if she could come to their office later in the week to discuss potential projects and initiatives. Her heart raced with anticipation. This was not just about career growth or financial stability. It was an opportunity to create meaningful change, to put her values into action, and to make a tangible difference in the world. She accepted without hesitation, feeling a mixture of excitement and determination. As the days passed, she continued to reflect on the stranger's visit and the lessons they had imparted. She began to see patterns in her own life, moments when she had chosen compassion over indifference, courage over fear. Each choice had shaped her into the person capable of embracing the opportunities before her. She understood now that kindness was not just an action, but a mindset, a lens through which the world could be viewed and engaged with. It was this mindset that had brought her to the attention of the billionaire and had set the stage for her transformation. One evening, she found herself walking through a quiet park, the city lights shimmering through the trees. She paused by a small fountain, watching the water ripple and glisten in the fading light. Her thoughts turned to the stranger and the journey they had undertaken since that rainy night. She imagined them navigating the challenges of life with resilience and courage, carrying the memory of her kindness as a source of strength. She felt a deep sense of connection, as though their lives were intertwined in ways she could not fully understand. Yet she trusted that the bond was meaningful and enduring. At home, she began organizing her small apartment, clearing space for new ideas and projects. She placed the photograph from the stranger on her desk, a reminder of the promise and possibilities that awaited her. The image of the building bathed in golden light became a symbol of hope, inspiration, and the transformative power of kindness. She resolved to embrace every opportunity with an open heart and a clear mind, knowing that her actions had the potential to create ripple effects far beyond what she could see. The day of the meeting arrived. She took extra care in preparing, reviewing notes and thinking about the contributions she could make. Her heart pounded as she approached the building, but she felt a sense of calm determination. She understood that this meeting was not just about her future, but about the chance to create positive change and to use her abilities to help others. The anticipation was thrilling, yet she felt grounded in the values and lessons that had brought her to this moment. Inside the office, she was greeted warmly by the billionaire, who remembered her immediately. Their conversation was engaging, thoughtful, and inspiring. He spoke about his vision for philanthropy, his commitment to helping communities, and the importance of supporting people with integrity and courage. She listened attentively, absorbing every word, and shared her own ideas and experiences. The exchange was natural and sincere, and she felt a sense of belonging and purpose that she had never known before. He explained that he wanted her to take part in projects that could have a significant impact, leveraging her experiences, insights, and compassion to create programs that addressed real-world problems. She was both honored and humbled, realizing that her life had shifted in ways she could never have predicted. The stranger's guidance, her own acts of kindness, and her willingness to embrace opportunity had converged to open a door that she had never imagined. After the meeting, she walked through the city streets with a renewed sense of possibility. The world seemed larger, brighter, and more connected than ever before. She reflected on the journey that had brought her here, from the rainy night when she had offered shelter to a stranger, to the letters, visits, and encouragement that had followed. Each step had been meaningful, each choice deliberate, and each act of kindness had set the stage for this transformative moment. That evening, she sat by her window, looking out at the city and thinking about the future. She felt a quiet joy, a sense of accomplishment, and a deep understanding that her life had changed not because of luck but because of her courage, empathy, and willingness to act. She knew that challenges would continue, but she felt equipped to face them with grace and determination. The lessons she had learned would guide her, and the connections she had made would support her as she moved forward. As the night deepened, she wrote in her journal, recording the events, thoughts, and feelings that had shaped her journey. She wrote about the stranger, the billionaire, and the moments of insight that had illuminated her path. She captured the sense of hope, purpose, and possibility that filled her heart, knowing that these reflections would serve as a reminder of how far she had come and the potential that lay ahead. The act of writing was both grounding and inspiring, reinforcing her commitment to live with intention and kindness. In the days that followed, she began planning ways to use the resources and support she had been offered. She envisioned programs that could help struggling families, initiatives that promoted education and opportunity, and projects that nurtured community and compassion. Each idea was fueled by her own experiences, her empathy, and her desire to make a meaningful impact. She felt a sense of responsibility, but also excitement, knowing that she had the chance to create lasting change. Through it all, she never forgot the stranger who had started this journey with her. Their presence, guidance, and the simple act of being helped had transformed her life in ways she could never have anticipated. She realized that true transformation often began with small acts of kindness, courage, and connection, and that these acts could set in motion a chain of events that changed not just her life, but the lives of countless others. She felt gratitude, humility, and a renewed sense of purpose as she embraced the possibilities before her, ready to continue a journey of growth, impact, and meaningful change. The days that followed her meeting with the billionaire were filled with both excitement and reflection. She returned to her apartment each evening with a mixture of anticipation and gratitude, thinking about the opportunities that were beginning to unfold. The encounter had sparked something inside her, a realization that life could be shaped by intention, courage, and compassion. She had always believed in helping others, but now she understood that her kindness could have far-reaching effects beyond what she had imagined. She began to make careful plans, thinking about ways to use the resources and connections she had been offered. Each idea was grounded in her own experiences and the lessons she had learned from hardship. She wanted to create programs that helped families in need, provided education and support for young people, and offered guidance to those struggling with challenges similar to what she had faced. She felt a deep responsibility to act, knowing that her decisions could touch the lives of many. Her mornings started early, as they always had, but now they carried a sense of purpose. She prepared for her day with intention, not just moving through routines but thinking about how each action could lead to something meaningful. She found herself more aware of the people around her, noticing when someone needed help or encouragement, and offering support without hesitation. It was a natural extension of the lessons she had learned from the stranger, the person who had first sparked her journey of transformation. One afternoon, she received a message from the billionaire's office inviting her to visit again to discuss specific projects and ideas. She felt a rush of excitement, tempered with a quiet determination to present her thoughts clearly and confidently. When she arrived, she was warmly welcomed, and the conversation quickly turned to the programs she had been developing. They spoke about the needs of communities, the importance of integrity and empathy, and the ways her ideas could make a real difference. She listened carefully and shared her vision, feeling encouraged by the interest and support she received. The discussions were intense but invigorating. She realized that her perspective, shaped by her own experiences and acts of kindness, was valued and respected. She found herself offering suggestions she had never dared to voice before, confident that her insight mattered. Each meeting reinforced her belief that compassion and courage could create meaningful change, and she felt inspired to continue her efforts with renewed energy. Back at her apartment, she reflected on how far she had come. The journey had begun with a single act of kindness on a rainy night, yet it had led to opportunities she could never have imagined. She thought about the stranger, the person who had first crossed her path and changed the trajectory of her life. She felt a deep sense of gratitude, knowing that their presence and guidance had given her the confidence to embrace her potential and step into a larger world. She spent hours organizing her thoughts and plans, writing notes, and sketching out ideas for programs that could make a lasting impact. She thought about how to reach the people who needed help the most, how to provide education, support, and resources that could transform lives. Each idea was infused with the lessons she had learned, the importance of empathy, the value of courage, and the power of small acts of kindness to create profound change. As the days passed, she began to implement small steps toward her goals. She contacted local organizations, offered her time and insight, and started building a network of people who shared her vision. She was careful, thoughtful, and deliberate, knowing that sustainable change required planning, patience, and dedication. She felt a sense of satisfaction in seeing her ideas begin to take shape, each small success reinforcing her belief in the potential for transformation. One evening, as she walked through the city streets, she encountered someone who reminded her of the stranger, a young person struggling with the challenges of life, uncertain and alone. She approached, offering a warm smile and a few words of encouragement. The person looked at her with surprise, then relief, and they began to talk. She listened carefully, offering guidance and support, and she realized that this was the essence of her journey, helping others, offering kindness, and creating ripples of positive change in ways both large and small. The encounter left her feeling invigorated and purposeful. She returned to her apartment with a sense of accomplishment, knowing that her actions, though modest, had made a tangible difference. She understood that transformation was not just about personal success or recognition, but about touching the lives of others and helping them find their own strength and hope. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that the lessons she had learned from the stranger and her own experiences were being put into action. As she prepared for another meeting with the billionaire, she reflected on the path that had brought her here. The journey had been unpredictable, filled with challenges, moments of doubt, and unexpected opportunities. Yet each step had been meaningful. Each choice deliberate, and each act of kindness had set the stage for the transformation she was experiencing. She felt gratitude for the experiences that had shaped her, for the guidance of the stranger, and for the support and encouragement of the billionaire. During the meeting, they discussed the progress she had made and the ideas she had developed. The billionaire was impressed by her vision, dedication, and ability to think strategically, while maintaining a focus on empathy and human connection. They spoke about ways to scale her initiatives, reach more people, and create lasting impact. She felt both humbled and inspired, understanding that the opportunities before her were not just about personal advancement, but about the chance to make a meaningful difference in the lives of countless others. After the meeting, she walked through the city streets feeling the energy and possibilities that surrounded her. She thought about the people she had helped, the programs she had started, and the vision she was bringing to life. Each step was a reminder that transformation was a continuous process, one that required commitment, courage, and compassion. She felt empowered, knowing that her actions could create a ripple effect, touching lives in ways she could not always see, but trusting that they mattered. At home, she sat by her window, looking out at the city and reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. She thought about the stranger, the person whose presence had sparked the beginning of her transformation. She felt a profound sense of gratitude, knowing that their guidance and the lessons of kindness and courage had shaped her path. She realized that transformation was not just about receiving opportunities, but about recognizing the power of empathy, connection, and purposeful action. In the days that followed, she continued to expand her initiatives, building partnerships, developing programs, and engaging with communities in meaningful ways. Each success reinforced her belief in the power of kindness and the importance of taking action. She remained grounded, humble, and focused on the impact she could create, understanding that true transformation required both vision and dedication. Through it all, she never lost sight of the values that had guided her from the beginning: compassion, courage, and integrity. She understood that her journey was a testament to the power of small acts of kindness, the importance of empathy, and the potential for human connection to transform lives. She felt a deep sense of purpose and fulfillment, knowing that her actions were creating meaningful change and that her life, once limited by circumstance, was now filled with opportunity, hope, and the chance to make a lasting impact. The early morning sunlight streamed into her apartment, casting a warm glow on the small space that had been witness to her transformation. She awoke feeling a sense of purpose that had grown steadily over the weeks, a quiet confidence born from the journey she had embarked on since that rainy night. The stranger's visit, the letter, and the meetings with the billionaire had all shaped her, guiding her to a life that was richer not just in opportunity but in meaning and connection. She began her day with a sense of calm determination, preparing breakfast and planning her schedule. There was work to be done, ideas to implement, and people to reach. Yet beneath the busyness, she felt a profound satisfaction, knowing that each step she took had a purpose beyond herself. Her mind wandered back to the stranger, recalling the night she had offered shelter, the quiet gratitude in their eyes, and the subtle lessons of kindness and courage they had imparted. That single act of compassion had been the spark that ignited everything that followed. Her mornings were now filled with meetings, planning sessions, and outreach to organizations and individuals who shared her vision. She spoke with clarity and conviction, presenting her ideas for programs designed to help families, educate young people, and provide resources to those in need. Each conversation reinforced the impact her work could have, and she felt invigorated by the thought that she was creating meaningful change. Her confidence had grown, grounded in the knowledge that her actions, guided by empathy and integrity, could touch lives in profound ways. One afternoon, she received a message from the billionaire himself, inviting her to a private event celebrating community initiatives and philanthropic efforts. She felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Attending this event would put her in contact with individuals who could support her projects, provide mentorship, and amplify her impact. She prepared carefully, reflecting on her journey and the lessons she had learned. She wanted to present herself authentically, showing both her dedication and her commitment to helping others. At the event, she was welcomed warmly. The atmosphere was filled with energy, conversation, and the shared commitment of people striving to make a difference. She met individuals who had faced challenges similar to hers and had gone on to create remarkable programs and initiatives. Listening to their stories, she felt inspired and connected, realizing that her own journey was part of a larger tapestry of compassion and purpose. She shared her experiences, her vision, and the projects she was developing, and she was met with encouragement, advice, and support. Throughout the evening, she found moments to reflect quietly, taking in the significance of the path she had traveled. From the rainy night when she had offered shelter, to the letters, meetings, and guidance she had received, every experience had been a step toward transformation. She realized that her life had been shaped not by luck, but by courage, empathy, and the willingness to act with kindness even when the outcome was uncertain. The stranger's influence was woven into every moment, a reminder of the power of compassion to create lasting change. Returning home that night, she felt a sense of fulfillment that went beyond personal achievement. She understood that her journey was about more than opportunities or recognition. It was about using her experiences, insights, and empathy to improve the lives of others. She began to write down her plans in more detail, outlining programs that could reach more communities, provide mentorship, and create resources for families and young people. Each idea was grounded in real needs, practical solutions, and the lessons she had learned from hardship and generosity. Days turned into weeks as she implemented her projects. She coordinated with organizations, engaged volunteers, and ensured that each initiative was carried out with care and attention. She witnessed the impact of her work in the smiles of children learning new skills, families finding support in times of need, and communities gaining access to resources that had once been out of reach. Every success reinforced her belief in the power of empathy and action, and she felt a deep sense of purpose that energized her daily life. She also took time to connect personally with those she helped, listening to their stories, understanding their challenges, and offering encouragement. These moments reminded her that transformation was not just about programs or initiatives, but about human connection, trust, and understanding. She realized that her own growth was intertwined with the growth and well-being of those she supported, creating a network of compassion and resilience that extended far beyond what she had initially imagined. One day, as she walked through a neighborhood where one of her programs had recently started, she noticed a young person sitting alone, looking lost and uncertain. She approached gently, offering a kind smile and asking if they needed help. The conversation that followed was simple yet profound. She listened attentively, offered guidance, and shared stories of resilience and hope. The young person's eyes brightened, and a sense of relief and confidence replaced the uncertainty. She felt a familiar warmth, the same feeling she had experienced the night she first offered shelter. It was a reminder that small acts of kindness could ripple outward, touching lives in ways that were sometimes invisible, but always meaningful. Her life continued to expand in both opportunity and responsibility. The billionaire remained a supportive presence, offering advice, mentorship, and connections to amplify her impact. Yet she never lost sight of the values that had guided her from the beginning: compassion, integrity, and courage. She understood that her journey was not about status or recognition, but about the ability to create meaningful change, to uplift others, and to live a life of purpose. Evenings were often spent reflecting and planning, reviewing the progress of her initiatives and considering new ways to help. She wrote letters, met with volunteers, and coordinated resources, always keeping the needs of others at the forefront. The process was demanding yet deeply fulfilling. She felt a profound sense of alignment between her actions and her values, knowing that she was living in a way that honored the lessons she had learned and the opportunities she had been given. Over time, the programs she initiated grew in scope and impact. Communities benefited from the resources and support she helped provide. Young people gained access to education and mentorship, and families found assistance in times of need. She became a trusted and respected figure in her community, not because of wealth or status, but because of her unwavering commitment to helping others and the authenticity of her actions. Each success was a testament to the transformative power of kindness, courage, and purpose. One quiet evening, she sat by her window, looking out at the city lights shimmering in the distance. She thought about the stranger, whose presence had sparked the beginning of her journey. She felt gratitude and awe, understanding that a single act of compassion had set in motion a chain of events that had transformed her life and the lives of many others. She realized that the impact of kindness was limitless, extending far beyond what one could see, and that each person had the power to make a difference through simple, thoughtful actions. As she prepared for the next phase of her work, she felt a deep sense of confidence and clarity. She understood that challenges would continue to arise, but she was equipped with the resilience, empathy, and determination to face them. She knew that her journey was ongoing, a continuous process of learning, giving, and growing. She felt inspired to continue reaching out, offering guidance and creating opportunities for others, trusting that each step would lead to meaningful change. Her life, once constrained by circumstance and uncertainty, had been transformed by courage, compassion, and the willingness to embrace opportunity. She felt a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing that her journey was not just about personal growth, but about making a lasting difference in the world. She reflected on the path that had brought her here, understanding that every choice, every act of kindness, and every moment of courage had contributed to the transformation she now lived. In the quiet moments of reflection, she smiled, feeling the warmth of purpose and the joy of meaningful connection. She knew that her life was a testament to the power of empathy, courage, and action. The stranger's influence, the guidance of the billionaire, and her own determination had created a life filled with opportunity, hope, and the ability to touch the lives of others. She felt ready for whatever the future held, confident that her journey of transformation and impact would continue to grow, ripple outward, and inspire change in ways she could not yet imagine. Even though the official projects she had been working on were well underway, she felt there was more to explore and achieve. Her curiosity and compassion had grown into a restless energy, a drive to understand the world around her, and to continue helping those who needed support. She woke early, as always, feeling a quiet determination to make each day meaningful and productive. Her apartment, modest but warm, had become a place of reflection and planning, where ideas could grow and take shape. She started the day by revisiting notes and letters, reflecting on how far she had come since that rainy night when she first offered shelter to a stranger. Each step of her journey had built on the last, forming a chain of events that had shaped her life profoundly. The stranger's kindness and guidance had opened her heart and mind, and the billionaire's support had given her the means to create tangible change. Yet she realized that her journey was far from over. There were always new opportunities to learn, new people to help, and new challenges to face. Her morning walk through the city was calming, a moment to gather thoughts and observe the world. She noticed small details she might have missed before: a shopkeeper struggling to close an overfilled cart, a child helping an elderly person cross the street, a dog waiting patiently for its owner. These simple observations reminded her of the interconnectedness of life, of the quiet acts of kindness that happened every day. She smiled to herself, feeling motivated to continue contributing in her own way. Back in her apartment, she began reaching out to organizations she had not yet collaborated with. She sent messages to community centers, schools, and small local groups, offering her ideas and assistance. Each response she received carried a note of hope, curiosity, or gratitude, and she felt energized by the prospect of expanding her efforts. It became clear that her role was not just to lead projects, but to build bridges between people, fostering cooperation and collaboration that could amplify impact. Mid-morning, she received a phone call from one of the young people she had mentored through her programs. They wanted to share a success story. A project they had undertaken with her guidance had brought together a group of local children to create a community garden. Hearing about their accomplishments filled her with pride and joy, reinforcing the importance of investing in others. She spoke with them encouragingly, offering tips and support while celebrating their initiative and creativity. After lunch, She set out to meet with a small group of volunteers who were helping implement one of her new community projects. They discussed logistics, resources, and strategies for reaching more people. She listened carefully to their ideas, incorporating their insights into the project plan. It was a reminder that meaningful work required not only vision, but collaboration, patience, and an understanding of the real needs of the people being served. She felt grateful for their dedication and willingness to contribute, knowing that together they could make a lasting difference. By late afternoon, she returned home to reflect and write. She began documenting the progress of her initiatives, capturing stories of individuals whose lives had been impacted. Writing was both a therapeutic and strategic activity, allowing her to organize thoughts, analyze outcomes, and plan next steps. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction in seeing the tangible effects of her work, understanding that her efforts were creating a ripple of positive change that extended far beyond her immediate view. The evening brought a quiet moment of contemplation. She sat by her window, looking at the city lights twinkling against the darkening sky. Memories of the stranger came to mind, the night she had offered shelter, the gratitude and lessons that followed, and the enduring impact of that brief encounter. She realized that the stranger had not only changed her life, but had also indirectly touched the lives of everyone she now helped. It was a humbling thought, reminding her that small acts of kindness could grow into profound, unforeseen effects. Later that night, she received an email from the billionaire, commending her progress and suggesting a new initiative that could bring her work to a broader audience. The proposal involved collaborating with a network of philanthropists and community leaders to implement programs on a larger scale. She felt a mixture of excitement and responsibility. The opportunity was significant, but so was the trust placed in her. She spent hours considering the best approach, reflecting on her values, and planning how to execute the initiative effectively. The next day, she met with the team she had assembled for this larger project. They discussed roles, responsibilities, and strategies for outreach. She emphasized the importance of maintaining empathy, integrity, and practicality in all their work. Her team responded enthusiastically, inspired by her clarity and vision. Together, they brainstormed creative solutions, considered potential obstacles, and set ambitious but realistic goals. The collaborative energy was invigorating, reminding her that collective effort often achieved more than individual endeavor. Over the following weeks, she balanced multiple responsibilities, overseeing programs, mentoring young people, coordinating volunteers, and liaising with community organizations. Despite the demanding schedule, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Each success, each smile, each moment of connection reinforced the importance of her work and her commitment to making a difference. She understood that meaningful transformation required consistent effort, reflection, and a focus on long-term impact. One afternoon, she walked through a neighborhood where one of her new initiatives was underway. She observed children learning, families participating in workshops, and volunteers engaging with the community. The scene filled her with a sense of pride and purpose. She spoke with participants, listened to their feedback, and offered encouragement. It was a living demonstration of how empathy, planning, and collaboration could create real positive change. She felt grateful for the journey that,